All right, you want to do this. Trust me, fly fishing is a thrill. And I'm gonna show you in this video, less than 8 minutes, I'm gonna show you how to improve your cast with your fly rod. And for demonstration purposes, I got my 5-weight right here, TCR. It's a fast action rod, but really these techniques that I'm gonna show you really apply to any fly rod that you have out there. So don't get frustrated, stick with me, practice, and it's gonna start clicking. I promise you. Happened for me as well. It took me some time, but things just started to click. And I'm gonna fast forward you a couple of years, right? There was no internet and YouTube back when I first learned, back when I was 16 years old. I did it by trial and error. So I'm gonna speed the process up for you and show you a few pointers that'll help you out. I know this seems silly, but if you're not holding your fly rod with your thumb on the cork, start doing that. You can do your forefinger as well, but this leverage just helps you get the fly out just a little bit further, a little more control on your rod, a little more power. And I'm also gonna show you in this video that you don't need to bomb it out, right? You don't need to bomb this thing out 60, 70 feet to catch a fish. A lot of times the fish are right here. And just with a flick of the fly rod, boom, there's a big fish right here. Big fish, let me see if I can catch it. There he is. Oh no, oh, I had him. Now you'll notice the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting some line out, right? You wanna have some line at your feet, and that's normal to have, 20, 30 feet of fly line sitting at your feet. And if you manage your line, you're not gonna get stuck in your boots or your waders. You do wanna have some fly line out. Now, if you are having trouble getting started, right, getting that line out, that's because you don't have enough floating line beyond the tip of your rod. You wanna have at least a rod length. In a lot of cases, I got probably 2 rod lengths of fly line out the front of the tip of my fly rod. That just starts helping me generate some line speed. Now, you can kind of see what I'm doing here, right? I'll face this way here so you can see my casting arm. So there's a couple things to consider, right? Cadence, right? How fast your fly rod's going back and forth. It's not a matter of doing it quickly. You have to let the line extend out behind you and in front of you before bringing the cast back. And you'll also notice, have a mental discipline, right? Don't let the rod go back too far or too far forward on any given cast. One of the biggest mistakes I made in the beginning is I let that fly rod go way back on a cast, and if your line is spaghettiing in front of you, that's why. So just have this mental discipline of, no more, the whole 10 and 2 ritual, right? Your arc will lengthen as your cast lengthens, but for now, let's just do the 10 and 2 cadence, right? Notice how patient I'm being as well. Thumbs on the cork, effortless, right? Very, very easy. And a lot of times, you don't even need to do all the false casting to get the line out. If you see a fish rising, you'll notice on this cast, I wouldn't even raise my shoulder up. It's just flicking the line out there. And that just went about 30 feet. Let me show you here. Just flick the line out. Just like that, pretty easy. So don't get caught up with having to, kind of raise it above your head. Now there are gonna be cases to where if you really need to get the fly line out there, right, you're gonna have to do the false casting and raise it above your head to get some distance and line speed. That's normal. You just kind of have to manage your line because it'll occasionally do that. Another pro tip for you. So fly line makes a difference, right? If you got one of those setups that are just kind of everything's all inclusive, right? Rod, reel, and line, that might last you a season. But if you're having a hard time casting, it's because your fly line really isn't that great. Invest in the fly line. You seriously could have a $50 reel, but then put a $100 fly line on it, and you're gonna find your casting improves immensely. So invest in the fly line. When the fly cast lengthens, my cadence, my rhythm gets a little bit slower, right? But I'm never going too far back with my fly rod. But don't get stuck in the weeds, right? You don't need to make all these false casts to get the line out there. If I've got 2 rod lengths of line out there, all I gotta do is flick it out there. It's really that easy. And if you just keep a rhythm, right, and it's not a matter of putting too much power, it's just kind of finessing the line out, it doesn't take a lot of effort. Let me show you again. Right? I'm not even gonna raise my arm up. I'm just gonna pick it up and throw it. pick it up. Oh. Now, you notice what I did there? I lost the handle, and that's actually a good thing to talk about right now. Your left hand, your non-casting hand, does a lot of work as well while you're casting. You'll notice that I got my index finger and thumb always keeping tension on the line when I'm stripping it in. When I'm going to cast it, my non-casting hand is holding onto the fly line. Now I'm loosely holding onto it. So when I'm trying to generate line speed, you have to tightly hold on to it when you're going back. And then once you feel all the lines start going further out your entire rod length, right? The line is straight out there is when you want to start loosening your grip a little bit and allowing the fly line to travel through your hand. But you always want to keep control of your fly line when you're casting with your left hand. Then when you go to strip, put your forefinger and thumb on the line, right, and start stripping it in. You want to always have control. I'm not pitching it too hard, but I'm keeping control just in case a fish grabs it, because you see, as I'm stripping it in right here, I'm letting go for a moment, right? So you want to always have control of your line. Now watch my non-casting hand again when casting. I'm letting it fall through my fingers, fall through my fingers. Now I've got some line speed going, just like that. So you always want to have control of your line. A lot of new fly casters, if you're getting the whole spaghetti factory in front of you, it's because you're allowing slack to happen somewhere in the cast. And by the way, if you think that this video is being helpful, hit the thumbs up. I appreciate it. And something else you can do to help support me is hit a super thanks. Anything that you hit on that super thanks helps support me and the channel. And thank you in advance. Okay, so watch me again. So I'll cast this way. Just watch my mechanics, watch my left hand. Okay, I'm letting it slide through, holding on, letting it slide through, hold on, let it slide through, hold on, let it slide through, and away you go. All right, let's do it again. So I'm gonna kind of talk to you while I'm doing it, right? Okay, so I've got it tight, it's tight. I can feel some line speed generating. I'm letting loose a little, letting a little line out. Letting loose a little, letting loose a little, and now there's the cast. All right, so you really don't need to false cast that much to get the line out there. Typically when you're fly fishing, kind of watch what happens. I'm gonna maybe false cast twice and all that line's gonna go out. Just like that. I'm doing a lot of false casting kind of demonstrate the technique. But a lot of times, the less false casting you do, the better. A lot of times, I've seen new fly fishers, right, they keep going back and forth. By the second false cast, you're ready to present. And even though you decided that you wanted to cast it a few more times, you really didn't need to because the line didn't go any further. I don't want to butt in and say something. So when fly casting as well, always pay attention to the tip of your fly rod. What I mean by that is your fly line will follow the path of the tip of your fly rod. And there are casting techniques like the reach cast. You can cast parallel, and at the very end, point your fly rod out to the middle of the lake and your fly line will follow. So where some fly fishers get hung up on is that they get kind of a weird arc when they're casting back and forth. So the fly line is following that arc, and a lot of times they'll either snag the line on the way back or on the way forward. So pay attention, right? Try to create a straight line path to the tip of your fly rod. Watch it go back and forth and see if you're turning your wrist in back behind you, because you probably are if you're snagging your line. Now, when you're ready to really get some distance, so if you've been casting and you're doing pretty good, there's something called the single haul and the double haul. So let's cover that. What the single haul is essentially is an up-down motion that you're creating with your non-casting hand. And it creates line speed, which loads the rod, and that energy from the rod is transferred into the line, and that's what helps it shoot out there. I use hauling pretty much all the time. Let's talk about single haul. Let's say you've got a lot of line out there. To help pick everything up really easily, pull down with your left hand while raising the rod, like that. See how everything just picked up super fast? So your line's out there, pull down and lift up at the same time. That's a single haul. Then if you do that on the back cast, that's a double haul. So now I'm double hauling. And it's really easy to shoot a ton of line out. Right, my line's ready just to shoot out there because I'm creating a lot of line speed. The rod's bending, really nicely here. I'm not doing it too hard. Too much power creates a tailing loop, but that's a double haul, and that really helps you shoot line through the wind or create more distance. It's definitely a practice. You have to time it, but if you got all the line out there and you're ready to pick it up, grab on with your left hand, pull down while lifting up. That's a single haul. And then do the same on the back cast. Practice this and you'll get it. You'll feel it, right? You can tell right when the line gets all the way back, I'm pulling back. And don't be afraid to watch your line. When you're first starting out, watch your line. All right, it's ready to come forward. Watch your line when you're doing it, just so you know when it's all the way back. If you're hearing that great big whipping sound, that's because you came forward too quickly, and it makes that Indiana Jones whipping sound. So if you're hearing that sound, that's because you came forward too quickly. So be patient. And again, you don't always have to cast like that, right? There's something called the roll cast, to where you just flick it out there. It's amazing how easy it is once you get the mechanics down, how easy it is just to flick your line out there. So I just cast about 25 feet with very little effort, and that's just using a roll cast. So you bring it up to about 1 o'clock, create a D loop in your line, throw it forward. That's a roll cast. Or if you're just wanting to shoot it out there, no false casting, right? Just pick it up, throw it back out. And I just cast out 25 feet. And you don't need to cast it out 70 feet to catch fish. I caught a fish literally at my feet not very long ago. Oh, there we go. See? I'm right at shore. Whoa, I had to shorten up my cast so much, it felt awkward because I barely had any floating line out. So you don't need to always bomb it out there to catch a fish. And you don't always have to raise your arm as well. Let's talk about what my arm is doing during the cast as well. Just watch the mechanics. You can see I'm moving a little bit of wrist, a little bit of elbow, and a little bit of shoulder. This casting style has worked really well for me over the years. There's no perfect cast, right? It's just not going to be perfect, and that's okay. You're probably not going to go try to do this, competition casting, because that kind of casting doesn't really work for fishing anyway. So you'll notice too, I hold my arm out. Notice how I've got my arm almost at like a 45-degree angle. I do that because I like keeping the rod and the fly away from my head. I very rarely fly strike because, I just keep it away from my head. You'll also notice there's a little bit of wind coming off my left shoulder. A lot of times I'm gonna be wary of where the wind is, and if it's coming this way, the wind is blowing this way, I'm not gonna raise the rod up this way. I might do what's called an over-the-shoulder cast, just to keep things away from my head. Because if there's a wind coming on your casting arm, it's gonna drive that fly towards your head. So learn how to do an overhand cast, kind of a cross-shoulder cast. It's the same mechanics, exactly the same, but it keeps the fly away from your head if you just can't help it and you have to have the wind blowing on that side. All right, so I hope that helps you the next time, right? Apply those tips the next time you're out casting your fly rod, and I know you're gonna have a much easier time. But practice, right? Sometimes you get lucky enough and you have this entire place to yourself, and you can practice out here, but go out in the field, go out to a city park and just do a little casting. But again, you don't need to bomb it out there. You're gonna get it. And if you're just starting with fly fishing and need a little help, just kind of choosing gear, that type of thing, I'm gonna put one video here. This is about waders, some of the best waders that are on the market today at a very affordable price. And I'm a pro ambassador, so you can save a little money, and what gear you might need if you want to start fly fishing. So check these two videos out, and I appreciate you tuning in. All right, everybody, till the next time, fish on.